Hello, welcome to this week's edition of MMA News. And today I'm going to review the UFC on Fox, Shogun versus Verify, and then I'm also going to do a preview on UFC 150. Pretty much because there's not really much else going on in the world of MMA. But especially considering the fact that the Olympics are going on right now. And wrestling is going on. So, maybe a little bit of a preview when it comes to wrestling. Japan made history again when two of their women became three-time medalists. Three-time gold medalists. But anyways, as I said, this is all about MMA. So, UFC on Fox, Shogun versus Vera. Very good fight card. Got higher ratings than the last time they had a fight, and I watched all the main card fights. Because I don't have Fuel TV, I did not get to see the prelims. So let's go to the main cards. Mike Swick versus DeMarcus Johnson. First time in years that Mike Swick has been able to fight. It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years since he last fought, and that was a loss to Paulo Thiago. He had various health issues and just wasn't able to fight. And after 2 years, he finally came back and he fought DeMarcus Johnson, who was on the Ultimate Fighter US versus UK. Did pretty well. But anyways, they fought, and it was a quick KO. I didn't even see it. When it first happened, I had to look on the replays. So Mike Swick has shown that he's back. He obviously got his health issues out of the way. They haven't deterred from his punching power. So that was a good fight. Then you had Joe Lauzon versus Jamie Varner. Jamie Varner, who was a former WEC lightweight champion, but then he suffered a loss in which he lost the title, and then he continued losing. And because of that, when the WEC was folded into the UFC, they did not import him. He thus went on the regional circuit and ended up doing well enough to where they brought him back. And I saw one of his prelims fights, and he actually did pretty well. So he fought Joe Lauzon, but unfortunately Joe Lauzon's better striking and submission skills eventually gave him the match. So that's how it rolled out. And Lauzon, he was originally a young prodigy, but he's still got a lot of talent. I mean, there's probably a chance he'll be challenging for the title at some point. I should also make some notes. Knockout of the night went to Swick, as long as we were talking about those fights. It went to Mike Swick, and then not only submission of the night, but also fight of the night went to Joe Lauzon and Jamie Varner. So that was a pretty good fight. The next fight was Lyoto Machida versus Ryan Bader. Bader, who is an Ultimate Fighter winner, and Lyoto Machida being a former champion. Both of them are coming. Bader just coming off of a win against Rampage, and Machida hasn't fought since his fight with John Jones, in which Jones basically choked him out standing, and once they stopped the fight, he plopped onto the octagon floor. Yeah, that was a KO. Very good one. we saw Machida back to what he was. He was that very that very aggressive, passive aggressive style. It's probably the only way I could think of to describe it, because he would just go in and he goes in and fights his opponents, comes back out again. Kind of hit and run tactics, but they worked again. He beat Bader, and that actually got him a title shot. Now, he said that he's gone back to the drawing board and that he's trying to figure out what weakness John Jones has, because he believes that John Jones does have a weakness. It's a matter of finding it. I agree. John Jones probably does have a weakness, but I'm not sure if Machida's the one who's gonna find it. It's a question of whether anyone's gonna find it, because not even Jones's training partner or former training partner Rampage Jackson even found Rashad Evans. He didn't find it. So that's that. And Shogun Rua versus Brandon Vera. Vera coming off of a win, and Rua coming off of a loss. 5-round war to Dan Henderson. This was obviously an important fight. People were doubting whether Rua could take another hard match. He did, but both fighters at times just looked like they were, had been battered. And incidentally, both fighters have taken their fair share of beatings. Vera more recently. Rua was, there was a point where he was very dominant. But then he got to the UFC, and then he started taking the punishment that he was not used to. So it's he and Vendele Silva are kind of on the same area, except that Rua was a bit younger, and but I personally think he's got a few years to go. But there are people who are saying that he, because of the amount of damage that he's taken, that his time is probably coming to a close. And I can understand that, because there were times when he just looked sloppy. And Vera's not the type of person that he really should have had that kind of fight against. But that's how things rolled out. He went out there, he gave it his all. But Machida is going to get the next title shot. So that's how those things happen. Now, UFC 150, Henderson versus Edgar 2. I personally I am not a big fan of immediate rematches unless they're justified. And as of right now, I do not believe that this rematch is justified. I just honestly do not, because I don't think, Edgar lost the title, and yes, it was a close match, but I think he should earn the title shot back. He shouldn't be giving it right away. This is something that I just hold. If you win and you lose the title, even in a close match, even if it's a controversial match, you prove that you work your way back up to the title. Which that's the thing about matchmaking, is that Dana White, he's got the power in the UFC, and he basically says I want to rematch these guys, and unfortunately he has the right to rematch those guys, which, like I said, I don't agree. I really think Edgar should work his way back up to the title, and but he's gonna fight Benson Henderson, so we'll see that. The last fight was pretty good, and I'm hoping this one's pretty good. So that's the main event. Then we have Donald Cerrone, the Cowboy, versus Melvin Gillard. both of these guys are very talented lightweights. Both of them are definitely in title contention. It's very possible you could say the two winners have the right to face each other, but we personally do not know that yet. And it's another interesting fact is that Gillard and Edgar have been in the UFC for a while, even before the WEC merger, whereas Benson, Henderson, and Donald Cerrone were both imports from the WEC, and they've done quite well. So it's a very interesting. Lightweight in general is just an interesting title picture. So we're gonna see how that rolls out. Then you have Jake Shields versus Ed Herman. Shields making his UFC middleweight debut against Ed Herman. I do not think this is a very good move on Shields' part, because he's at middleweight he's gonna be small. He was small when he was in Strikeforce. There were points in that title fight with Henderson that he, the first round he took a beating, came back, and just because of the fact that Henderson's an old man and he did a improper weight cut, he gassed out after the first round. But there were points where he could have very easily knocked Jake Shields out. I do not believe he should be in that weight class. It's guys that are, 20, in some cases 30 pounds heavier than him, and he's having to, I don't think it's smart, but that's just me. But there's also the taking into consideration that he's got teammate Nick Diaz, who as of right now is coming out of retirement as soon as he's done with his suspension. He's got his teammate in the same weight class, and we know what happens when you have teammate contention. But these guys are close. These guys are extremely close, and I don't think these guys are, they don't want to fight each other. It's, if one of their teammates is in the, if one of their teammates is a champion in that weight class, they're basically going to serve as a bodyguard. That's how close these guys are. The Cesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu camp, that's how they are. So, that's all that we could really expect there. Other middleweight fight, Yoshino Okami versus Buddy Roberts. Okami was really supposed to fade Luis Kane. Then he was supposed to fade Rusimar Pajares. I think that's how it's pronounced. But then he pulled out of an injury. Now he's up against Buddy Roberts, whoever that guy is. But Okami is not someone to be trifled with, even though he did get whomped by Anderson Silva in their rematch. But that's that fight. And then we have Justin Lawrence versus Max Holloway at featherweight. Just because of the fact that I haven't heard of these guys, I'm not really thrilled about this fight. But if they want to dazzle me, then they can dazzle me. If there's plenty of people who are the first fight on the main card. Never heard of him before, and then they established a name for themselves. I never heard of Junior Dos Santos before he went against Fabricio Werdum, and they knocked Werdum out in the first minute of the fight. And now look where Dos Santos is. He's a champion. He just beat Frank Mir. Sent Frank Mir to Strikeforce. So, that's how that rolls out. So that's all that I'm really going to talk about. So, this weekend we'll go watch those fights, and I will see you next week.